Okay, so we've been talking about stakeholders and how we treat them, how do we optimize, how do we make win-wins turn into more value for everyone. And that's not an easy game to play. Um, uh, that's a given. So, and it can get confusing in a hurry. You can get overwhelmed with multiple stakeholders, right? We've talked about some. You can read about them again, that business roundtable uh, statement on the purpose of the corporation. But you've got employees, customers, investors, management that's trying to orchestrate this whole thing, the community that you operate in, the environment itself, and any externalities, any pollutants and waste that your products create. Uh, the list goes on and on. Lots of people can say, they are a stakeholder. They are impacted by what you, as a manager, as a leader in your company, do, by what kind of activities the company engages in. So this can get confusing and overwhelming in a hurry. So how do we break it down? How do managers, and this is now descriptive, not prescriptive. I hope you know the difference. This is based on a study, Mitchell et al. I'll link the research behind this in Blackboard. But how do managers actually go and make sense of this? I'm not saying this is the way they ought to do it, but this is the way that we see them doing it. So first thing they're looking at when they're assessing a stakeholder's needs, wants, claims on the firm, they're looking at power, right? Not necessarily first. This isn't in order, but I'll take them in this order. First thing is power. Is this a powerful stakeholder group? Employees. If things have gotten to a point, that they're banding together, talking about unionizing, going on a strike, or basically, holding back their effort. An interesting thing, you treat employees badly, there's a lot of what we call discretionary effort where, and I'm sure you've all experienced this on the job. Managers being harsh, company culture's bad. Yeah, maybe I'm going to work at about half speed. And maybe I'm going to, take longer breaks every chance I get. And maybe I'm not going to give you my best. And maybe I'm not going to treat the customer the best because I'm unhappy because of the way things are going, right? So employees tend to be a fairly powerful group. They make or break your company. So they're always getting a lot of attention. There may be other things. There may be external special interest groups. Maybe your company's not doing a great job with pollution in the environment. And you may have a very powerful group. The Sierra Club would be an example. They're kind of an environmental watchdog organization. If they've got their crosshairs on you and you've been, they're getting you in the news in a negative way, etc., that's a powerful group, right? They can impact your business powerfully. So you have to pay attention or pay the consequences. The second thing they like to look at is what we call legitimacy. Does this group have a legitimate claim on the organization? Take your customers, for instance. Is your product causing harm? Or on the flip side, could you be building the product in a safer way, a more user-friendly way? Again, looking creatively at things that may not add cost, but that would add value to the customer. Of course, the customer is a legitimate stakeholder of the organization. Because without them, there's no revenue, there's no company. Your purpose is to fulfill some problem or need that they have. So that's a totally legitimate stakeholder group. Other groups may make claims, your company should be doing X, Y, and Z. The media is hyping something up about something your company ought to be doing. But where's the claim coming from? Is this some, one journalist with an axe to grind and it doesn't represent the views of really the bulk of your stakeholder groups? Is that legitimate? Is the media a legitimate stakeholder if they're just trying to create a headline? Is that something you should jump and do something about? Not necessarily. Other examples abound. You see sometimes CEOs doing corporate social responsibility in quotes, and it's a pet project, right? They've got they're really big into, an example is, they're sponsoring bicycle races for health, right? Well, that sounds great, promoting health, but let's say you're a carpet manufacturer and you're doing it because the CEO is a bike enthusiast, right? That's not really a legitimate way. You're investing in a stakeholder group that it's a pet project. It's not legitimate as in that those bike enthusiasts have some legitimate claim on carpet manufacturing, or that it has anything to do with your core business. Hopefully these examples work for you. You could dig in and find some more. I'd be really curious, actually, doing this video style. I don't get to have the give and take with you, but maybe you can think of some things better than what I'm coming up with here live. But in any case, you need to assess power. You need to assess legitimacy. The third thing that they look at is urgency. Right? Is this a pressing need? Is your company right in the middle of something that, again, the media tends to be involved in this because it's how your customers, your employees, it's how people find out. Maybe there's a really serious issue. Maybe we'll be looking at some cases coming up soon, but maybe you've got a case where employees were happy, but it's been a long time since you've shared any of the profits or any of the proceeds of their hard work. They're getting disgruntled. There's murmur about a strike or unionization. That's a legitimate stakeholder, a powerful stakeholder. We've already talked about those two. But then there's an urgent situation arising. Other things that could create urgency is, like I said, changes in the general environment. We've talked about the general environment. Maybe some new issue in the general environment will create some urgency for the company that, hey, there's a stakeholder group. They've got a serious problem and they've got it now because this is what's going on today. So 3 things that top management strategists tend to look at when they're thinking about their stakeholders. Are they powerful with respect to the firm? Are they legitimate? Do they have a legitimate claim as a stakeholder, as someone who's being impacted by the company? And is their claim urgent? Is there something that needs to be done right away? If you don't have at least 1, 2 of those 3 things, we have limited resources, right? There's what we call in the fancy academic language, attention scarcity. CEOs, management, the company can't be attending to all things at all times, right? We're not omnipresent. So we're going to tend to matters that tend to fall under those 3 things: power, legitimacy, and urgency. There you go.